thank you guys for being here. We're still working on our microphones. I think I have to have it touch my chin the whole time. That's how it works best. So, again, this is going to be a very informative conversation. I think most of you have been here before, so I'm so excited you're back. And we've expanded. What do you think of our new space? I felt like we were kind of like a young toddler last year, right? Just growing up. Now we're like in teenage years, and pretty soon we're going to expand, and we're going to have both sides, and be like real grown up. So we have room to grow. Today, I think you are going to learn at least one or two things that you're going to take with you that you are going to enjoy. I just want to tell you again that, as you know, I started these seminars because my day job is real estate, and I'm working with a lot of older adults who were moving or staying put or doing all the different types of things, and I was trying to find some resources, and I found like it was very complicated to find resources sometimes. There's so many different places, and trying to put it all together, and actually trying to figure out if somebody is trustworthy or not. And so one of the groups I found was a group in Oklahoma that kind of do the same thing. They do seminars, and I love that concept. I'm a past teacher, so I love the teaching aspect of it. And what I really like about it is trying to say, hey, here's what we do, but it's not a sales pitch. I want you to feel comfortable using the people that we have as education partners, and this is our first year having education partners. So if you don't know them, at the end of the seminar or at the next seminar, make sure you find out who they are, because they're here also because they care and they want to be a resource for you. They're not here to sell you something, but they want to be as helpful as possible. So also, we have a new website. We've probably seen it spinning around, so make sure you check that out. And I'm going to figure out how, if you've signed up, that you know you've signed up, because somehow I feel like I keep sending emails, and then you're like, oh shoot, did I sign up? And then you sign up again. So I'll figure out how to make sure that you know that you signed up. So I'm learning how to work this as well. Also Facebook. If you could like us on Facebook, that would be great, and we can try to get more people as more information as well. Let's go ahead and get started with our panelists. I'm going to start over here, and this is Captain. I was going to write down your name.
It's okay.
Heinrich.
Heinrich.
Darn it. It's embarrassing. Okay, Captain Heinrich. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll go with Ashley and Kathy, and we will get started.
Well, welcome again. Yes, my name is Jeff Heinrich. I'm a fire captain here for the City of Overland Park Fire Department. I'm not currently I don't work out of this station here that's right next to us. I spent, I think, maybe close to 5 years at that station. I've worked at all the fire stations in Overland Park, actually, and the one in Marion that we are now a part of as well. But I've been with the fire department for 23 years. I've been doing this for 34 years. And I'm here to answer all of your 911 and fire safety questions. So I'm also a paramedic too, so I used to respond on an ambulance with fire trucks too.
You have to speak up because
Oh, it's not picking up. Okay, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm your fire guy. How about that? That's close.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm Ashley Dwight. Thanks so much, Julie, for having me. So I have a story behind why I started the foundation, but a friend of mine and I started 13 Beats. So 2.5 years ago, my son, 17-year-old, my husband and my son, collapsed during a baseball lesson out of the blue and suffered sudden cardiac arrest. And he's alive today. It's a total miracle, but the only reason he's alive is because of bystander CPR. And these two coaches that jumped in, one's a retired Royals player, so you can imagine big enough, were able to keep him alive until first responders arrived. Horrific. Our son is fine. He's healthy. They don't know why this happened. Quickly, we realized as a family, we have 5 kids, oh my gosh, this happens every day to healthy people for no known reason. We wouldn't have known what to do. And all you need to know is enough to keep someone alive. So a friend of mine that was also affected by sudden cardiac arrest, her father died on a run and a break during work when she was 16, said, let's do this. So she and I decided to put on free bystander CPR trainings within the community. So without going into detail, I'm here to kind of talk about why that is so important for everybody to know. Just enough to keep someone alive until first responders arrive. So we can talk about that later.
My name's Kathy Spray, and I work for a company called Senior Helpers, and we do private duty caregiving services in your home, wherever home is, whether it's a house, an apartment, a facility, wherever you are, we will come to you. And you're probably wondering what that has to do with emergency preparedness. I'm here because part of the assessment process that I do with any of our new clients is I do a safety assessment of the home. And I look for, it really starts the minute I pull in the driveway. I'm looking for, cracked driveways, cracked stairs. Are there railings? Are the railings secure? And then I go in the home and I look for, are there pills laying out? Do I smell gas? Are there rugs everywhere? How many staircases do you have to navigate? So I base my my assessment on your care needs, but also can make recommendations on any equipment you may need in the home or any work that needs to be done to make sure that you can stay in your home as long as possible safely and you don't have falls and end up in the hospital and that sort of a thing. So that's what I'm going to be touching on today in our webinar.
Thank you. Aren't you excited to hear what they have to say? So we're going to start. I just have some questions here, and you're welcome to, if you have the question, raise your hand. We can go ahead and take those as we go along. But Kathy, let's start with you. So my first question is just kind of what are some of those most common home emergencies that you see or that you've noticed throughout your career? You've been in this business a long time.
Very long time.
She's young though, look at this, very long.
I've been in this business for about 20 years, and I've worked in every realm you can work. I've worked in assisted living, independent living, skilled nursing, in-home. I've run buildings, memory cares, so I've got a little bit of everything. But I would say the number one, and I almost give there's two number ones, things that I run into the most are falls. So I can't tell you how many times I've been called to a home to do an assessment, and the client has told me that they fell, they live alone, and they laid on the floor for hours, sometimes bleeding, sometimes broken bones, their face is smashed up, they've hit a countertop on the way down. It can get pretty nasty. And I'll tell you a story. One of the clients that happened to, real story, the first thing I noticed is that she had a smartwatch on. And I thought, well, the smartwatch was supposed to detect the fall in the first place, but she was a little bitty thing, so maybe she didn't have the weight to capture it. But the other thing was she didn't know that she could call 911 or call a loved one from her watch, because you can talk to it. You can tell it what to do, and she didn't know that. So if she had that knowledge and education, if someone had showed her how to use it, she could have saved herself laying on the floor for several hours in agonizing pain. So falls are definitely the number one. And then close second is medications. So a lot of times I'll go into homes and I'll find either medications expired, like really expired. They haven't been able to get refills on their medications, or I'll look in the pill box and all the medications are wrong. And a lot of times seniors, well, really anyone with dementia can lose time. They don't have a concept of time. They don't have a concept of what day it is. So even though the pill boxes have, Monday through Sunday and day and evening, they may mix those up. So mixing up medications is definitely one, and then you add on the fall, it's just, there's confusion and they're kind of walking around their house in a cloud. So those are probably the biggest ones that I see when I go into homes.
Thank you. So Ashley, you focus kind of more on cardiac arrest, and what are some of the statistics that you have on some of that information?
think that most people are probably like we were, and you just think this isn't something that we need to worry about, this isn't gonna happen to us. If I'm gonna go learn CPR, am I really gonna use it on somebody that I even know? Like, am I learning it for somebody, a stranger? Very scary statistics are out there that over 350,000 people a year suffer sudden cardiac arrest outside of a hospital. Over 350,000. It's happening all the time, right? Somebody's got to be there for them because first responders, they cannot be there immediately, right? Well, over 70% happen in your home. And that was the alarming statistic for our family, that you're not learning for a stranger, you're learning for your loved one, whether that's your spouse, your child, your grandchild, your friend, you are learning to save someone else's life. And it has become such a passion because, again, our 17-year-old son has nothing wrong with him. This was never gonna happen, but he had just been home with me. And I was working and I wouldn't have known what to do. And it is not hard to learn, but it is life-saving. And we went about 24 hours of not knowing whether our son would wake up. If he was gonna wake up, and if he did, if he had any brain activity. Because they did bystander CPR for a very long time. That bystander CPR, when you're just doing compressions, no more mouth to mouth, you are jumping in and you are starting compressions, you are circulating that oxygen that is stored in our blood. Typically, when you go to sudden cardiac arrest, they take a big gasp of air and then they're done. That is oxygen that's sitting there, and you are circulating that to their brain to keep their brain alive. Because maybe you can get the person back, but they're not gonna have any brain activity if you've deprived it of oxygen. So, startling statistic that you are learning this, and at every age needs to know this because 70% happen within the home.
Yeah, kind of scary. Yeah. So Jeff, as a paramedic, as a firefighter, what do you see out there? And you have a lot of knowledge on 911, which we'll go over too.
Sure. So actually, I kind of want to circle back to what Kathy mentioned. So Kathy's spot on the statistics. Like last year in 2024, we, as a fire department, 20% of the calls that we go on or more are falls. So it is and we have different types of calls, but they start with general categories. So falls are the biggest section of the number of calls that we run. Although we are called the fire department, we run more medical calls and assists than we do fighting fires. We will still come and check out leasing sometimes and help you with smoke detectors, but medical emergencies is the majority of what we do. And we try not to take the fire trucks and all of those. That's why sometimes you'll see the small little fire trucks with SUVs running around. They're actually doing the most of the work. So they will run with the paramedics and the ambulances and help people for those types of situations. So yeah, trips and falls happen all the time. Now, just because of the bad weather, it's happening everywhere. And so that is the majority of it. Not everybody's injured and has to go to the hospital. Sometimes we just help them get back in their chair, but there's a huge fall risk. And also to Ashley's point on the statistics, when we deal with cardiac arrest emergencies, now those statistics are really kind of hard to track because there are a lot of times that calls will come in as somebody who may be having a stroke and it's actually they're having a heart attack. And sometimes they come in as someone who's not breathing and it's actually someone having a seizure. So sometimes that data is a little bit difficult, but what people don't realize is who do you spend the most of your time with? You spend it with friends and you spend it with family. And then maybe some of your coworkers, or if you're still working. But that's who you're spending most of your time with. That's when you're going to need to help somebody. And so that's those CPR skills. It's who you're spending most of your time with. That's who you're going to be able to help. So it's called bystander CPR, but it's really friends and family CPR.
That's right. That's right.
So those are important skills to learn about. So I can answer all of your smoke detection questions and fire emergency questions a little bit later too, but
That sounds good. Yeah, please.
Okay, I kind of piggybacking off of Jeff, I told you those two statistics that are big, but the one that really alarmed us and got us to start 13 Beats was the survival rate. Somebody that suffers sudden cardiac arrest outside of a hospital, the survival rate is 10%. 10%. 5% walk out of the hospital without any deficits. That number we saw, the reason that number is low and can be increased is quicker compressions can begin on somebody. That number goes way up, the survival rate goes way up. So we knew that number needs to change. I mean, that dropped us to our knees for sure, that we realized we just witnessed a miracle in our son. He was that 10%, that 5%. So that's a big reason why it's so important to start. The survival rate is very low unless you are able to jump in.
And we're gonna talk a little bit about modifications and safety things that you can do at home. We're not actually gonna go through the CPR that she talks about. We do have a little piece of paper that talks about it, and you might be able to kind of talk about it, or she'll give you ways that we can learn that, or maybe there's tips, but let's go ahead, let's come back this way, but Jeff, do you wanna start just on ways that home modification or devices that you maybe recommend for people that you're seeing out there?
So
And
one
then
of
we'll
the-
end
one of
with
the
Kathy,
things-
she'll have a lot too.
Sure. So one of the things that's always really helpful for us, that when we show up with the paramedics and the firefighters, is to have somebody there who can help us provide that history. And sometimes, especially if you can't communicate, maybe because it's choking, or because it's a stroke, or there's memory problems, is getting an accurate medical history on the person that we're taking care of. And so, if somebody's not there with you to help tell us about when you had some surgeries, or you're taking this new medication, we encourage people to have a file of life with them or in their home that we can find that gives us more information. So now there were some at the table when you guys checked in, and it used to be actually an old pill bottle that we would get from the pharmacies, and we would encourage everybody to take them and to take your personal information and put it on a piece of paper and put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. So, because you really don't need to keep pills refrigerated. Some medicines you do now, but that was always a key place for us to look that would help us get information. We've made it a little bit easier now. So we have that same piece of paper, which are provided there with the magnet, but it just goes on your refrigerator. And that information can be life-saving for us, and for you. It will help us keep track of your medications. It'll get some of that important information, like your address, your birthday. It will tell us who your doctor is and which hospital you want to go to. So in the event that you cannot communicate, it will at least tell us a little bit more about you. And the more frequently you can update those, the better off it is. It's sometimes very difficult to go to your medicine cabinet or to go to your bathroom and have to start to write down all those medicines that you're taking. So if you had a piece of paper that had it all written down for us in advance, that would be fantastic. And there's information there that you can include, like, this is the name of my daughter and my son, and here's their phone numbers, and I would like for them to be notified in case something happens to me. It has information on if you have an advance directive or a living will, your doctor's names. There's so much information that you can include on there, but it's very, very helpful for us because we're trying to get the best and fastest care for you. And sometimes, if we don't know, we may just take you to the closest, and that may not be your preference. So a lot of things that is entirely voluntary, but we still encourage these pieces of paper because they are very, very valuable. And then a lot of times what we'll do is we'll scan it and we'll return it right back to you.
That's good to know. I think a lot of people that are here too have friends that live in the same apartment complex, or friends that are, live close by. And I think it's really important to make sure that those people know where your list is. So if you have something on the refrigerator, great. For me, our refrigerator doesn't have a magnet on it, so we'd have to have a different plan in place. But whatever that plan is, I think it's important. There you go. Jan just told her that it's in her purse. I like that. See, that's what you got to do. You have to tell your friends or your family members where these important things are. So I think that's important to know and to have a plan in place. I think a lot of things that we've talked about after we had our call is really just communicating a plan to somebody else. They don't have to know all your medications, but I think knowing that someone else has a plan, knows your plan, or what your plan is. So, Ashley, I know you mentioned something about an app, and we had a little bit of a discussion. It could be maybe this app, the Pulse Point, has two different types. Are there two? There's some pluses and minuses to everything, right? We have technology and all these new advances and things we can use, and some of them have good things, and some of them have things that make them less helpful. But
So that brings up, the app also brings up, so going back to what sudden cardiac arrest, Jeff kind of talked about a heart attack, and a heart attack, you need CPR to bring them back. What happened, our son is electrical, and typically kids don't have heart attacks, but so it was electrical. He needed an AED, and maybe you've seen those around. I hope that you now look for them because they are life-saving.
what is that? Is that like
It's an automatic external defibrillator. You see them on the walls. They'll be a lot of times behind a glass in a box, like on the wall, and it's a. Oh, I wish I had a picture. I could have brought mine. It's only about this big.
I can go grab one. There's one here in the community center.
Yeah.
Do you have them like at Garden Villas? Do you guys have those around, those things?
We were just talking about that. I'm sure, but I personally don't know where they are, so Ellen and I will be, as soon
You're
as we get
figuring
back
it out.
to the community, we will
Yeah.
be learning where those are at.
So okay.
Is this something that people could use if they?
Yes.
If I'm like, oh man, I gotta find this machine. Is that
Yes, so
something we could-
these, and we heard a lot of this after this happened to our son, and we started doing these trainings. Oh, we thought those were, because they look very important, right, and very official, because they're life-saving. And we thought those were for the first responders. No. Rest assured, first responders bring all the best equipment. They bring everything they can possibly need. That is for us to use to jump in and save someone. So our son's baseball club did not have any AEDs, which is really a shame, and now they do, but they should be everywhere. So when you go into any place that you're gonna be for a little bit, you should know where the AED is. That's where this Pulse Point comes into play. So there's a couple apps, so if you went on the app store on your phone or your iPad, it's called Pulse Point. And so that's Pulse, and then POINT. There's two of them. You'll see a red one and a yellow one. I say download both of them, they're both free. So the yellow one is the one that when you get to, if you're at a place or heaven forbid, a medical emergency happens, you can pull up that app and it reads your location and will tell you where the closest AED is. It'll even show you where it is.
Can you repeat that?
Sure, it's called Pulse Point, Pulse, and then POINT.
All together?
Yeah, the app, there's two different apps. One is, they're the same, one's red, they both have a heart in it. One's a red background, one's a yellow background. So the yellow one shows you where the nearest AEDs are. Super cool, it also shows you, when you pull it up, it says CPR how to. You click on it, it tells you the 3 easy steps. So if you're like, I can't remember, I've trained, I've done this, I'm frantic, it'll tell you very easily what to do. The other, the red one, the red app tells you if you hear sirens, which is, it's a way to know what's going on around you. If you hear sirens go off, you can pull up that red one and it will show you where the medical or any sort of emergencies are happening around you. So the reason for that one is if you know CPR, that if it was needed, you can set it up that you get an alert and you can go there. And
This out. We found another key.
but these AEDs are amazing, and our events, our next 13 Beats event, our events are free. You just come whenever you can within the time period, and you train and you put hands on the mannequin to do CPR, but you also train on how to use an AED. It's the easiest device. I should have Jeff tell you, and he can tell you about it, but it's the easiest device. It actually talks you through it. You turn it on, and it tells you exactly where to put the pads on the patient, the victim, and it will only shock them if it needs a shock and reads it needs a shock. These are life-saving devices. These, and going back to, I was that person that was ignorant, and this did not apply to us. My husband and I were college athletes, we're an active family, we're healthy, there are no medical conditions. Well, guess what? We are that it could happen to you, family, because it can happen to anyone, and I should have known what this was. The facility should have had these. These are not all the places they should be. These need to be everywhere a fire extinguisher is, in my opinion, but I
So
should be
are they
saying-
always that color? You said
No.
red.
So, well, I was talking about the app.
Oh,
There's
okay.
different, they're all work basically the same. There's different companies, so some are red, some are yellow. This one is Zoll and it's yellow, so you would just turn this on here and it would walk you through what to do. The pads are back here, you just pull them out. It tells you exactly how to put them on the victim. It's not gonna shock a victim if they do not need a shock, if they do not have an irregular rhythm going on in their heart at that moment. But these are life-saving. My point in all that is that app that Julie mentioned will tell you where the closest one is, that's publicly noted, right, that it's recorded. What do you add to that?
He just doesn't want you to be chasing down ambulances and going and fire.
So, when you call 911, if you are able to give the address, and they will cross-reference this from the GPS signals in your phone, the 911 dispatchers will be able to identify and verify the location. And in Johnson County, every AED that's purchased has to be registered with the 911 system, so that they know that, okay, this device is being placed at this particular building. And schools are pretty common.
We're gonna get one in Garden.
Yeah, so they will direct people to find the AED if they see that you're calling from a building that has an AED. They're not gonna ask you to go across a busy street to go, you know, or something like that, but just to give you an example, Oak Park Mall, there are several. Every school has them, a lot of churches have them.
Do apartment buildings have them? Seems like that would be a good thing for an apartment building.
An apartment building?
Yeah. You guys know if your
actually,
apartment building has one?
no, there's not
They're
that
not,
many,
okay.
no. So, but the dispatchers will help you if they recognize that the call is coming from a place that has an AED.
Well, I was talking about the app, cause you had mentioned in our call that,
Yeah.
you know, people use it to find out what's going on and then go see where the emergency
They-
is and chase it down.
Yeah,
So
they do.
Don't do that.
This is what the yellow one looks like.
I find myself wondering, do you go ahead and start CPR before the AED is connected or put on? And then what if do you have to check for a pulse before you start CPR?
You know what, and so I'll give you the quick version. If it looks like they need CPR, go ahead and do it.
Okay.
If they start pushing you away,
They
you can stop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so I'm just concerned about causing more harm
Nope.
if they did have a heart attack.
Don't worry about it, and you're always
Okay.
protected
Okay.
through the Good Samaritan.
And we,
So mention that, and then we'll get to, but yeah, mention that Good Samaritan thing, because I did have a question about that as well. If people are cautious, like, let's say you're out to a restaurant and you see somebody.
yeah, so that you are protected with the Good Samaritan law. So no one's gonna come back to you and say, you broke my rib. Well, I mean, they could try, but you were protected. And, you know, what we heard over and over, after this was, sudden cardiac arrest is also called sudden cardiac death. And the reason is, when someone's in sudden cardiac arrest, they're dead. They can't be any deader than dead, right? You cannot hurt them worse than they're already hurt. So hit your knees and start that CPR. I mean, the hope is, and I think that Jeff would say the same thing, all that I've been told, CPR is the most important. Yell to if somebody is near you, go get the nearest AED. You don't want to waste time getting that AED if you want to start those compressions right away. Hopefully somebody nearby can grab this AED, and then hopefully, the 911 gets there quickly. This really resonated with me because I don't know if you follow football, but Damar Hamlin, that plays for the Buffalo Bills, he collapsed after our son did, very soon after our son did, right? And there was a lot of, obviously, talk about it, and HBO did a special, and it focused on kids, athletes. I didn't mention because you guys aren't probably out there playing a bunch of sports, but it is sudden cardiac arrest is the #1 killer of student athletes, and they don't know why. So this special revolved around that. What really resonated and scared me was that they interviewed these kids whose teammate dropped playing basketball, and he was in his school gym, and they immediately started CPR, and they turned to one of the teammates and said, "You go get the AED in the school." And the boy turned to his friend and said, "Come with me." And they interviewed this boy. He told this story. They ran out of the gym, and he turned to his friend and said, "I don't know what it looks like. Do you?" No. Now these two boys who know their friend is dying in the gym are running around looking for a device. They don't even know what they're looking for. So that was very alarming to me because I didn't know what it looked like either. We need to know about these. We need to tell everybody about these. These are single-handedly life-saving devices because our first responders are our heroes. They have to travel from where they are when they get the call to us. In order to survive, we need to know somebody's going to jump in and help. And that's why I think our partnership, we partner with 13 Beats partners with Overland Park Fire, is so great because they want you guys to jump in. They've been saying it since the beginning of time. Clearly, I wasn't listening. Sorry, but so we're trying to now get the word out. They need, in order for them to do their job successfully, they need us to jump in the interim.
Thank you. Yes, Tammy.
After they've been used, do they need to be repurposed or recharged? Do they have to be recharged every year?
That's a great question. So, yeah, they do have a regular inspection schedule, but it's kind of like they make these batteries that are long-term, so honestly, most of them, all you have to do is make sure that there's a green light or a checkbox in the window and they're good to go. The pads do need to be replaced, but they do have a long shelf life, so that they last for several years if they're not used. And then if they are used, we will help replace the supplies, because a lot of times we will use the same pads from the AED and plug them into our device if they're the same manufacturer. So if it's used, we can help you get new pads. That's not going to be your problem.
How expensive are they?
They're $1,500. They're not bad.
They're not bad.
But
They
you
really
do
aren't.
have to have a prescription.
No, you
buy them-
don't. You don't have to have a prescription. Anyone can buy one.
So you buy them on Amazon.
Well, I mean, I probably can.
Okay, all right. I don't know.
If you're interested in Kansas City, there's an amazing distributor, a company that does this, and they have a program for public places, companies that have one that they then monitor them too, to make sure everything, the batteries are up to date and all the things. Anyway, it's called KC First Aid, and they are incredible. So KC First Aid. We have one of these at our house now, but the interesting thing, because we didn't know why this happened to our son, how are we supposed to sleep at night? And what if it happened while he was sleeping? Nothing's ever happened again, but how do we know since we have no answers? So he has an internal one, which really stinks, right? A teenager does not want that. He would take that out if he could. It's inside him. So if he ever had that happen again, he's wearing a defibrillator around his heart, so it would shock him. But these are single-handedly life-saving devices, and they aren't that expensive. They do need to be monitored though to make sure they're always working. And, you know, I'll tell an interesting story of places you would think, because we just talked about, you guys were wondering, do your facilities have them? Can I tell a quick story?
Yeah.
Okay. So we partner a lot with Moley Automotive. They came from the very beginning when we started and said, you know what, this is awesome, we'll give you whatever, you know, to put on these events. So Moley Automotive told us at the end of last year, hey, we have more money set aside than you needed this year. How much are AEDs? He said $1,500. Okay, can you help us find a place that needs an AED? And we're like, man, where do you start? They're needed everywhere, right? Well, we thought, Moley Automotive, if you don't know, is huge philanthropically. They give so much. So we went on their page to look. We thought, wouldn't it be cool if they gave one to one of the people they already partner with? Well, we looked, and Ronald McDonald House was on there. Ronald McDonald House is important to us because I didn't know I'd ever need it, but when we were in Children's Mercy ICU, our son was there, it enabled one of us to stay in the room, one to stay in a bed right down the hall, and it was incredible. And so we're big behind Ronald McDonald Houses. Well, I thought the houses, I get the ones in the hospital would have access to an AED. I'm sure the houses have AEDs, right? Because these are sick kids and sick families with sick kids. So we contacted Ronald McDonald House and said, hey, I'm sure you have them, but do you have AEDs? No. We would love AEDs. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. So fast forward, we're putting AEDs in their houses, and I'm also on a board, a sudden cardiac arrest board with, it happens to be our son's cardiologist at Children's Mercy and a bunch of Children's Mercy people. So we're on this call, and they're asking what's new, whatever, and so I said, we're putting AEDs in Ronald McDonald House. And it went silent. And Davis, our son's cardiologist, finally chimes in and she said, they don't have AEDs. I said, no. And she said, so a few years ago, when kids needed an AED, they couldn't leave the hospital until they physically had one, but you had to order it. So it would take the hospital a few days to get it. But they were sick of staying in the hospital, so they sent them over to Ronald McDonald House to wait for the AED to come. They had no idea they didn't have AEDs there. I'm like, so you sent these cardiac patients to Ronald McDonald House thinking that would protect them until they had their AED in hand, and it was not a safe place. And when I went they asked me to come down and present these AEDs, and they took me around to the different houses. They have 3 houses downtown, and I mean, I had people working there that said, I've done CPR here for a parent. I've seen this happen in our buildings, and they still did not have one of these. So you guys, it's alarming. They are not where they need to be. They need to be everywhere. So if you're bored, start writing people, emailing, trying to get people to put these in every place you go. Or ask if you have like a restaurant you go on a regular basis, or just a place you visit, or your own facility, wherever you live. If it's not a single house, ask them, where's your AED? I need to know this. And if you don't have one, you need to get one. We need this. This is so important.
Okay, yeah, I like passion though, I like that. I love it. It's more than I ever knew, but isn't it, it's amazing information. No, I think it's great. So let's transition back to your home and some of the things that you can add there, things that you can do in where you're living to make things a little bit safer. So, Jean, you're up.
So I wanted to touch base a little bit on what Jeff was talking about with the File of Life. So I had actually kind of forgotten about the File of Life, but remembered as soon as he said it, that we used it in a facility that I worked in a while back. It was an independent living facility, and so it was part of our, process, our paperwork process. Anytime a new resident moved in, and ours were red, but we had the paper, we would have them fill it out and put it on their fridge, and that was just something we had ready and on their fridge before they even moved in. So what I really saw that it benefited, amongst everything else, but when the paramedics would come in, and it happened a lot, that's the first place they would go. They would immediately ask us, do they have a File of Life? Yes, it's on the fridge. And they would know what hospital to take them to, who to contact, what their blood type was. Just all sorts of really important information. And so what that did, because a lot of people who live in independent living are widows or widowers. A lot of times they don't have family that live nearby, kids live out of state, and so, and they may be unconscious, so, or they may be having signs of dementia and can't answer the questions. So what that did was it told the paramedics everything they needed to know to get them to the right hospital the fastest. And I can't tell you how many times, and they'd be honest with us though, and if their hospital of choice was St. Luke's South, they'd say, hey, we know there's a waiting in there right now, what's their second choice? And we may just pick something, but it eliminated having to find out all this information to give to the paramedics before they took them to the hospital. So it's, after we had that conversation, I contacted the county and they're gonna be bringing us 100 of them, because I would like to start making that part of my process when I do, meet with clients in their home. Because it's the same thing. Almost every one of my clients is single and their kids live out of state or live far away, or the kids are busy, and it's really, really important to have that. So mine's more equipment based, of things that off the top of my head, things you could have in your home. If you are comfortable with technology, I highly recommend smartwatches. Some way, if you're going to the restroom, you don't have your phone with you, you have a fall in the bathroom, which is where a lot of them happen, you can call somebody. You don't
Take
have
my
to
phone to the bathroom. I think I'm safe.
you don't have to lay there in pain or bleeding. It can be life-saving. It can absolutely be life-saving. And I have had clients who have them that it did detect the fall and it immediately called their emergency contact or 911. So if you're comfortable with the technology, I highly recommend it.
It doesn't have to be an Apple Watch, right?
It does not.
I think there are, Apple Watches are fairly expensive, but there are other ones as well.
They don't have to be super complex. They don't, no, they don't at all. And then they've come out with so many new life alert type products. Back in the day, it was just the life alert. It's a pendant you wear around your neck. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to have this sort of badge of honor that they're elderly and that they need help. And so there's so many different options now. There are like a home base that sits at your house, and you can have a cell phone on it, you can have a little pager on it, and it's more for if you're a walker and you want to get out and take a walk on a nice day, you don't want to wear a pendant, you grab one of those pagers, and you can communicate through that. Or the little, I don't know if it's a walkie-talkie or like a little cell phone, or maybe a mix of both, but there's devices like that. There's wristbands that look more like a watch, and you can just push that button, and it's got a GPS tracker in it, and it'll call 911, and they know exactly where you are, laying down by the pond because you went to feed the ducks or something. There's so much technology out there now that if you're comfortable with it, use it, and it's really not that expensive. I think those home-based devices, it's like installing a phone line. So it's, $10-15 a month, but it could save your life. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well, we have grandkids, and if something should happen when they're there, we got an Alexa emergency assist,
Yes.
and it's like $5.99 a month.
Yep.
And so they can just talk to it and say,
Yes.
Alexa, call 911.
Yep.
So that.
Same thing. I have recommended that.
Yeah.
Yep, I have recommended that to families. But anything where you can just use your voice, and it's going to recognize that something's wrong. There's just so many products out there nowadays that will keep you safer living at home. And next time you go home, just kind of do a once over. Are your handrails wobbly? Are your stairs cracked? Do you have big thick rugs all throughout your house that you have, if you use a walker, are you having to lift that walker to get up past the rugs? It's a lot of things you don't even think about. If you have a hard time standing in your shower, get a shower bench and a handheld shower head. Words are hard. Shower head. That way you can sit, because a lot of people get lightheaded when they're in the shower, and that's where we have a lot of falls, lots of injuries. I could go on and on and on, but it really is the little things. Do you have enough grab bars in your shower? Do you have to step into a tub? What are you grabbing onto? If you don't have a door with a handle, or you don't have grab bars, you're gonna grab the curtain if you're gonna fall. Is that curtain gonna hold you if you fall? It's not. It's gonna come down with you. So, like I said, I could go on for days about all the different modifications you can make to keep you safe, but those are a few of the big ones.
You had mentioned some cooking things too, like just to
Oh,
be
yes.
cautious about cooking is another.
Because I've even done it myself. I mean, who has a gas stove in their kitchen? The burner gets left on a lot. It's on low, it's hard to see, burners get left on. I walk into houses and I can smell gas. Or you bumped the knobs with your hip and it turned on just the gas, not the flame. And you don't know it, you can't hear it, maybe can't smell it. So it's, being cautious of that too. Make sure if you're cooking at home, make sure all the knobs are turned off. Make sure there's no heat. Don't put metal in the microwave, things like that.
Does carbon monoxide, they can't detect gas if it's too much gas.
Well, I mean, I know if you're, and Jeff, you could probably hit on this better than I could, but I know if you're sleeping, no, you're not gonna smell it, it's not gonna wake you up. But I can smell it, especially in the older homes that use like propane. I can smell that. They have like those gas heaters. I go into a lot of old homes that are just an absolute death trap. They scare me to death. Basements with very steep stairs, with wiggly handrails, and that's where the laundry is. I mean, like I said, I could go on for days, but just being aware of what you're using in the house and, making sure you turn things back off before you walk away. Little things like that can save you a lot.
Go ahead, Jeff, and then
Is this-
go ahead and
is this
add to
working?
that, and then
Okay.
if you wanna start talking about any of the 911 stuff.
Sure. Okay, so really quickly on detectors in the house. So people always ask, what is the best kind? And the technology is getting better and better all the time, so that's good. But what most people don't realize is even though you may buy a maintenance-free detector, you still need to have it inspected. Because you know who else likes smoke detectors? Spiders. And they are the #1 cause of false alarms in smoke detectors. So they're drawn to the lights that are low emitting at night. And so if you buy a smoke detector, and we're not going to recommend a particular brand, but we want to make sure that you put them appropriately in your house. So the smoke detectors hopefully are connected. In other words, when one goes off, they all go off, because you may be in a different part of the house where the smoke detector actually detects the smoke. So that will depend upon the facility that you live in, but you can buy them now, even though your house wasn't wired that way, that they will all talk to each other through Bluetooth. So it's pretty cool. You want to have a smoke detector in every room where somebody sleeps, and you want to have a smoke detector on every level where somebody sleeps. So let's say you have a 2-story house and you have 3 bedrooms. You need a minimum of 5. 1 for each bedroom and then 1 on each level. Okay. Also, a lot of people say, well, you know what? And we'll talk about carbon monoxide detectors. Carbon monoxide is a byproduct of combustion. It's going to happen no matter what. A lot of people say, well, I live in an all-electric apartment. I don't need a carbon monoxide detector. We run more carbon monoxide incidents in apartments than we do in homes. And that's because your neighbor may leave their car running. And these cars that are smart now are not so smart, and sometimes people leave them running. You don't need to have the key in the ignition. You just need to have it near the car. And these cars, the remote starters are pretty popular now for when it's cold outside. We have a lot of carbon monoxide incidents in multifamily dwellings. So even though you are an all-electric facility, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector in where you live. And you want to keep it where you sleep. We don't want to keep it in the utility rooms, because actually there's carbon monoxide that comes out from the furnace. You don't want to keep it in your garage, because there's going to be some carbon monoxide in your garage, and there's small amounts that's okay. You want to keep those carbon monoxide detectors where people sleep. So if same rule applies. You wanna keep one on every level where somebody sleeps, and you wanna be able to wake you up, is what the problem is, because carbon monoxide will put you to sleep and then you pass out. So it's a bigger problem than people think. Just because they have all electric, that's not the case. You still need to have them. And then the gas detectors,
Yeah.
that Kathy was mentioning. So they do make special sensors, smoke detectors. They're more expensive, but they still can detect combustible gases. So they're getting better and better at these devices. You can purchase those as well. They will alert you just like it's the same unit. It just has different features. So.
And you had mentioned on our call also about keeping your door shut. I thought that was
Oh my
really
gosh,
interesting.
yeah. If there's
because I
one
know-
message from Captain Jeff that you need to remember, you guys need to sleep with your doors closed. And I know that sounds crazy if you're the only one living there by yourself. Because of the smoke. Those doors are there to protect you and will get you time that we can rescue you through the window or another means. But the smoke migration, there's so many bad products and the things that are built today, like these tablecloths. These are actually plastic. Okay? When this stuff burns, it's going to emit something called hydrogen cyanide. The hydrogen cyanide will kill you before the smoke does. Because it takes a small amount of plastic burning to make it toxic. So keeping that door closed in your apartment or your home, even though you're the only one there, it will protect you. I know it's going to be kind of a pain that you have to open up and close your door every time you leave, but we can show you images from a fire in a house, and the one bedroom that was closed, where nobody slept, they just left it as a guest bedroom, everything was safe. Nothing was touched in there. There's just it may smell of smoke, but nothing was damaged. And so your kids, or my kids, I have to encourage them, sleep with your door. Of course, now they're teenagers and they want their door closed because they don't want dad to see the mess, right? Please sleep with your door closed. We call it close before you doze, and that will give us the minutes that we need to rescue you from the fire.
Does anybody have any questions about safety stuff? I do want him to kind of go through the
The 911 call,
911
yeah.
stuff. So, Ellen, did you have a quick
I
question or you
just
want
wanna
to?
ask you something real quick about
Sure.
that. So where I live in independent living, and
Yes.
we have sprinklers.
Yes.
What
Right.
does that do compared to a smoke detector? Are they the same or different, or how do they respond?
Okay, so the short answer is a fire sprinkler is designed to keep a fire in check so that people can leave.
Okay.
They are not designed to extinguish the fire.
Right,
So
we need both.
you need both. Yeah.
I don't know if I
If you have sprinklers, that's great. That was required when the building was
Right.
built by construction codes, but you still need to have the smoke detectors.
Okay.
The smoke detectors will go off sooner and help you get out.
Right.
And then if it unfortunately gets hot enough there, the sprinkler will deploy. All right. So questions about 911? Raise your hand if you've had to call 911 in the past, ever. Wow. Okay. So 911. We've got of course, when I started, there wasn't 911, right? We had different numbers to call. But now we have a universal number. The 911 operators are generally a police dispatcher or a county dispatcher. So be patient with them, but they're just gonna start asking you questions. And I know you have a lot you want to tell them, right? But please let them ask you the questions in order, because here in Overland Park, the first person that's gonna pick up your phone is a police dispatcher. And they're based out of the basement of the fire training center. Now they are trained to handle all types of emergencies, but they're gonna say, fire and police, what is your emergency? And then as soon as you say, there's a fire, they're gonna say, hold on one moment, I'm going to connect another person. They're gonna keep talking to you and listening to you, but the very first dispatcher is a police dispatcher. And they're gonna get the most appropriate resources. So it's gonna take maybe about 18 seconds to get that next dispatcher connected. But please let them talk and ask you the questions, because they will ask you questions in a specific order that will get the resources moving faster. And so if you just allow them to ask you the questions, because the very next thing they're gonna do is verify your location. And they don't wanna start sending fire trucks if you're calling from a cell phone and the GPS coordinates are wrong.
What happens if you have a person who cannot speak?
So if you, they call 911 and somebody answers, but they're incapacitated to speak.
Just nonverbal.
So they do have TDD, they have telephones for the deaf, and you can set those up. Usually if a person can't communicate, they have the special phones already, and those locations, those are called landlines. It's basically the old Southwestern Bell. They actually set up communication, so they know that there's somebody who's hard of hearing, and they have a TDD communicator with that.
Are you asking if you already know they're not gonna be able to communicate, or for some reason, because of an emergency, they're not able to communicate? You know that
Well,
they
there
will
might
not.
be an emergency also when somebody can't speak, so I assume they are tracking the address at least.
They will track the address, and so the old phones are actually more reliable than cell phones because
Landlines, you're saying?
the landlines, yeah, they actually know the address right then and there.
Okay.
But
So on a cell phone, you wouldn't know that.
cell phone, it's called triangulation, and they will be able to get the location eventually. But one of the things they will do is listen, it's not my house that's on fire, it's my neighbor's house. So they'll start asking you the question, well, what is your address? Okay, and then they immediately pull it up on the map and they say, okay, which direction, they are really good at it. And they will figure it out, they will get the right resources. But in situations, well, let's say you accidentally called 911 and nobody talks, they're still gonna send a police officer there.
So if someone has a stroke and they can't talk.
Right, it's called a 911 hang up. So they're still gonna send somebody. And even, here's another thing most people don't know is if you call and say, oh, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't wanna go. We're gonna come anyways, okay? Because think about a person who is in danger. We have to assume the worst. So there will be somebody that has to verify that things are okay. We're not going to kidnap you and take you to the hospital. But we still have to make sure that somebody had eyes on you or at the location. And that's for your protection and ours, right? So don't hesitate to call 911, please. Don't hesitate. If you think somebody's not acting right, call. We would rather go there.
I would be like, oh, I don't wanna bother, that's.
Don't bother the fireman. You know what? I love my job, we like running calls, and your taxes pay for my salary. So this is what I get paid to do. So I would much rather get there and say, you know what, I'm sorry, the dog accidentally hit the 911 button or activated our fire alarm. No big deal. That report for me is this big. Versus a medical emergency, which is a complicated report, or a fire report. So we don't mind going on those calls whatsoever.
You don't get phone books like you used to.
Right.
They used to always list the non-emergency numbers.
Yes.
So I assume when you call 911, the first thing I would say is, this is not an emergency. Who do I talk to?
They will give you a non-emergency number depending upon your municipality. So, but honestly, you would not believe the phone calls that they get. Sometimes people are called to get the score of the KU game. They'll get the weather report. I mean, we have created a society where 911 is the one call does it all, and that's okay. But there are non-emergency numbers for police. You don't
For
get
KU games, there's not emergency.
What's called the internet.
Oh,
Right?
Well, they used to call 411 or OVR.
Yeah, it used to be
I used to
411.
work for Southwestern Bell and AT&T.
And there's different numbers for suicide prevention and call before you dig and things like that. So they will reroute you, but you know what? It's okay. You can call.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, and this might be best for Jeff. I recently had a family member ask about installing a keypad for her door on the house.
Yes.
Is that something that makes it easier for you all to get it? I know you're gonna get in one way or another, right?
That's
is
a
that
great
something
question.
that's helpful?
All right. So realtors will know this because when you go show a house, you have a key card that's registered to you, right?
Right.
That scans every time you guys enter a facility that's locked otherwise, right? You have to be a realtor. Okay. So I have that same key. It's called an axe. I can get into any house, right? But if you know that there's a situation like that, and there's a significant reason, like if we have somebody who's disabled, and I'll use my house as an example. I have a special needs son. He's 15, and of course all the firefighters and paramedics know. But I have my house registered with 911. So if somebody calls from my house at my address, there's an emergency information there that pops up that gives them my garage door code. No one can see that unless there's an emergency at my house. So if you have somebody like that, there are devices that you can set up and register. So we will be given that code to the key lock or pad only if there's emergency. It's secure information, no one else sees it. You gotta tell us if you update your code, right? That's the biggest problem, it's high maintenance. But we'll get into that.
So axe could be number 2 choice, the axe could be the second
Yes.
option if you.
Yes.
How do you register that with 911?
So get the device first and put it in the location. Now, we're pretty crafty people,
And
so,
what's it called?
well, I can't recommend the name of the device.
Oh, okay.
There's
But I
multiple.
mean, just a generic.
Keyless entry.
We're gonna look for
Keyless
keys no
entry.
matter, so let's say for example you fall, and I can see you through the window, but I can't get to you. We're gonna try every way possible, and you know what, we always look underneath the doormat and underneath the flower pot, because that's where most people put them. So, don't think you're being sneaky, but that's what it's there for. We're gonna look up and around the door frame and behind, so there's different places that people hide things.
But if I currently have keyless entry,
Yeah.
can I register that with 911?
Well, we only use it for people who it's very likely that they'd be incapacitated. So, just for the general public, probably not.
But I'm saying she's nonverbal.
Oh, then yeah, she would qualify.
So when I registered my Alexa, it asked me to call 911 so they could grab it and know that it was coming from there. So does that mean that was registered?
Well, usually when you call 911, they're gonna start communicating with you and having.
Well, it was a test, and so it didn't like actually call them, even though it said to call that, and then they reflected back that they got the information.
Yeah, that's just a verification.
Okay.
Usually the test is there's a delay. They're gonna make sure that it's a real alarm before they actually transmit it, so. Great questions, by the way.
They are good questions, it's a smart group, Belinda.
I suspect many people's concern is, I don't want to pay for an ambulance ride if I don't really need an ambulance ride. How do I know when I need to call 911? What I heard you say was if you at all think you might need to call. Just curious if there's anything more you'd expand on that.
Well, they're gonna ask you questions, so I'll just give you an example. Let's say that you've fallen out of your chair. You're not hurt, you just need help getting back up into your chair. They're gonna ask you lots of questions, and they're not gonna send the ambulance actually in that situation. They're gonna send probably the little fire truck with 2 people on it, just to help you get back up into the chair. And just like a sprained ankle is different than a person having chest pain, we're not gonna send the cavalry for a person with a sprained ankle. You're probably just gonna get the ambulance. And if the ambulance is more than 8 minutes away, then you'll get a little fire truck first.
It
We're
seems
gonna-
like a lot of times the cavalry comes though, I'm like, oh.
Well, yeah, this is Johnson County, we go all out,
Okay,
right? So we're gonna send a lot of resources, but people be surprised for a cardiac arrest situation, and we kind of talked about this earlier, you're gonna get at least 13 people there. Because there's 2 on an ambulance, there's a minimum of 2 people on a little fire truck. You're gonna get a fire chief, you're gonna get a EMS chief, and there's usually 3 people on a fire truck. But we need 2 fire trucks to make sure that we can do CPR continuously and do all the other things that we need to. So you get a lot, it looks like a parade.
Why are all the chiefs coming also, just to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do?
So yes, we have checklists that help us with reminders, and we have these fancy machines that will do CPR for us, but they're so expensive, we don't keep them on every truck. So we keep them regionally throughout the city, and every chief car has one. So that's why it's like a CPR machine that will help us, and then that way I don't have to spend, I can do other things like give drugs and IVs. Great questions.
Yes. Anybody else have one? Tracy, do you have the little pieces of paper? Did you fill those out? No. For the drawing? We didn't have that communication, did we? Tracy, she's looking. Can you, write down everybody's name on a little piece of paper for the drawing?
Oh, there's a raffle drawing.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
This is a new thing for 2025, is the raffle drawing, so,
Switch over here. Teresa.
do you wanna come up, you wanna bring the basket, and, also, I have some guests, any last questions for our panelists, and I have a little something for them as we're kinda getting this put together. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, here's the thing, and I always tell this to people, they always say, thank you for your service, and I love my job, but I started as a volunteer, right? And most of the country is protected by volunteers in your community, so I'm just lucky enough to be paid to do something that I would be doing otherwise. So it's really, we love helping people, so
Kind of like teaching or doing some of those other public services, I think so. Yes, thank you so
And I will
much.
say that Overland Park has it going on. We work with a lot of different areas, and our Send a Knot class in Overland Park, and nothing to first responders, it's a broken system. And, Overland Park's numbers and statistics are a lot better than other counties, and a lot higher survival rates, because they do things quickly. I always say collapse. In Overland Park.
Collapsing over the bar.
If you're on the state line, go one way and not the other.
Well, okay, so while we're talking about that, so just so you know, we help each other too. So if you are in an area and let's say the Overland Park fire truck is driving and we're close to the Leawood board, we work as one department here in Johnson County. So Leawood helps us, we help Leawood, Olathe, Shawnee, we all function as really one department. They track us by GPS, so you will always get the closest paramedics and firefighters.
Do you ever cross state line?
Yes, they've had big significant events, like gas leak explosions. We've had crews go, I've personally gone to Hutchinson, Kansas to help out for their wildfires in my career. We have excellent resources here in Johnson County. We support everybody else, but yeah. Kansas City, Missouri came over to help us when we had our big City Place fire. If you remember that fire, it was like 13 years ago.
Which one?
City Place at College in Neiman, off 69.
Oh, the apartments? Yeah.
That was a long day.
That was there, that.
We had crews from Lawrence, Kansas City, Missouri that day. We go to Lawrence quite a bit. We help each other out, yeah.
Do you want to bring your basket up here? Is it too heavy? Do we need two people? There's so much stuff. Sure? So Teresa is with one of our partners. Last month we had a basket from Free State Advisors. Melinda and Nathan brought that. This time it's with Connect Home Management, and do you want to just say a quick minute?
Sure, quick. Hi, I'm Teresa. I'm with Connect Home Management, and we do have some flyers over there and cards, but it's basically a handyman service. So if you need like leaky toilets, leaky faucets, grab bars installed, all kinds of different things, even like organization and decluttering, just kind of assessing, this is gonna stay, this is gonna go to Goodwill. We can do a number of things for you. So it's a free consultation. You're welcome to give us a call anytime. We do try to connect with a lot of different partners in the industry, so if we can't be the ones to help you, we'll try to always recommend somebody.
You do a great job. Okay, do you wanna pick a name or you want me to pick? Okay, okay.
It's a very official piece. Jackie. Oh.
This is lucky table, didn't you win last time, Sarah? Yes.
You guys are gonna sit by them. All right, so anybody else? I think we're finishing up. If you have, they're willing to stay a few minutes if you have any questions. And again, next month will be the aging brain, so we're gonna talk about different things, some dementia, Parkinson's, those types of things, how to keep your brain healthy. Again, bring your friends, bring your family, love to have them. And call me if you need anything. And I put a little something on there. If anybody wants to go to coffee, let me know. We'll go have coffee and chat about whatever you want to chat
Great
about.
job on planning the weather today.
You're, of course, you're welcome. Yes, yes. I said, not last week. Okay, you guys have a wonderful month. I will see you actually on the same day, 26th of March. Also, if you look in your spam if you're not getting emails from me, because I'm using the website, so it comes from a little bit different place. So, all right, thank you.